Iceman cometh.
Please, show some mercy.
Mercy? I'm afraid that my condition has left me cold to your pleas of mercy.
Do you expect me to talk?
Hello and welcome to episode 80 of Duo Space to Talk. I'm your host Becca, and joining me in our anatomically correct rubber batsuits are Dave and Chris. How are you?
I'm feeling levitastic and in bright neon.
I don't know how to feel because I don't know what anatomically correct would actually be for me.
All the resplendent parts, including nipples.
Maybe hitting nipples.
This is my abiding memory of this film. Is it's like bat buns, nipples.
Yeah, like bat boobs.
That's because you're shallow, Becca. You're all about bodies and shit.
Well,
Me and Chris were about the themes and like Mr. Freeze's sad loss.
I'm all about quippy puns, me. So
all 27 of those puns.
oh, you counted?
None of them. Eyes to see you.
See, I wasn't going to say it, but you said it.
I'm pretty sure Robin says something similar, but he actually says, nice. He actually says it properly, and I was like, oh, that's a bit weird.
Well, you missed an opportunity there, didn't you?
I really wonder why he didn't say that in the film. I mean, obviously it comes from McBain being a Simpsons quote, but I was kind of thinking, you really missed an opportunity not to say that line in the film.
They thought of about.
I'm sure Arnold's kicking himself.
Yeah, several years later. I wish I said that line in the movie.
But it amazes me out of all these quippy lines that barely any of them are actually that memorable as well. You're thinking the amount of... I know it's like maybe cheesy and a bit naff, but at least could have had like memorable and kind of fun with it. But none of them are actually that quotable. It's just kind of...
They're a bit naff, aren't they?
It's just... I mean, that's probably the most damning thing of all, really. You're kind of like hoping if we're going to do this, at least be like memorable and funny. And it just kind of, you know, and I'm struggling even now. I watched this film like once and again with the Schumacher commentary. I'm just struggling to see, trying to remember any of the lines. You know, I am generally struggling, and it's
cool party.
Well, yeah, it's just
cool party, and that's about it, really.
Yeah, and obviously there's like freeze and all this.
Even some of Uma's lines as well, things like "My vines have a crush on you," and it's just pure cheese.
Well, we'll get to a line later where they can't even hit what the obvious line would be.
No, maybe they thought it, and
I'll give full credit to the podcast that pointed it out, because I listened to a podcast about this show a couple of years ago, and they said, "Well, surely you would say that there," and I thought, well, that's just actually really, really obvious. But we'll get to it.
We'll get there.
Tell us about this masterpiece, Becca.
Anyway, guys and girls, if you hadn't already wondered, we are reviewing Batman and Robin, starring George Clooney, Chris O'Donnell, Alicia Silverstone, Uma Thurman, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Michael Gough, and Elle Macpherson, Vivica A. Fox, and Coolio, if you can spot him. With a script, again, by Akiva Goldsman, who I think killed the franchise. Score by Elliot Goldenthal, and directed by Joel Schumacher, and released in 1997. And other names that I can't pronounce. Blah, blah, blah.
Well, it's not that important, really. Can I just say, like, how pointless and thankless is Elle Macpherson in this? Like, it kind of really struck me how close to real life she was to George Clooney's girlfriend in real life. Like, you know, this is like, I mean, obviously at this time, obviously he's married now, but for a large chunk of his like life, he's always been that kind of like this kind of debonair bachelor who just never settles with anyone.
Yeah, he's always been like eligible bachelor, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he kind of like basically plays George Clooney in this. He's
just like being ER hottie.
Well, yeah, it's just like, the whole it's just about the whole thing with the Mel McPherson as his girlfriend is just like you never really need to sort of settle down and commit, but that's pretty much all that's made of it.
Yeah, very strange.
It's just like, well, what was the point of her even being in the film? She
was there for a scene where he meets Pamela Isley, and she was there at dinner with him at Wayne Manor, where he's having visions of Pamela Isley, and I can't actually remember her in any other scenes.
Yeah, I think she's in one more scene, but then I struggle to think of what that scene was. I think it was just like a little wrap up thing where she just pops up, but that's about it. And you think, well, what was the point of having her in the film? I mean,
I've absolutely no idea. I mean, I would hope by 1997 that it wasn't the old Aunt Harriet thing of like, let's put a woman in there to like remind us they're not gay. A, of course they're not, and B, why would it be a problem anyway?
Well, not only that, you got Robin like eyeing up, Alicia Silverstone anyway.
Yeah,
and things like that. So that would set aside.
Even that's really confused though, because we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep my powder a little dry. I mean, the fact is, normally we open with stuff. There are some shows where the film arrives a bit piss taken, and you think, well, I don't actually know. I mean, if I rant about Batman and Robin, it's like, well, that's really easy, isn't it? I think we have to take it as read. We'll go through it and we'll say, we'll take the piss out of different scenes and stuff. But I think it's fair to say it's not a very good film. None of us will say it's a very good film. So I think I'd actually like to start with what's our history with this film, if anything.
Okay. I think I'll go first, seeing as I have the most little history of the film. I mean, this was like the first full-on proper viewing I've had with it. I think I've only ever seen it in like bits and parts when it's been on TV and stuff. I remember like kind of being interested when it was announced, because it kind of came around the time where I started to get Empire and things like that. So I started to sort of like really pick up on my movie fandom kind of thing. I was like, oh,
and that would be about right, because you were like 14 turning 15 this year. That's about right, isn't it?
So I think probably like the year before, like sort of I remember like it was like maybe 2006 when I started getting Empire, some of that, and sort of looking like the up and coming films, and I remember like this was like the year of the second Pierce Brosnan film, Tomorrow Never Dies. So it was like, sort of interesting, like Dante's Peak and all that. And I was like, good, doing a new Batman film. And it's like, before that kind of like, the switch hit, and I think there was something about the idea. I mean, I was excited, I was like interested in the film coming out. And I think by the time the film came out, I was just kind of not interested. I think it must have been like an age thing, where the series, and it could be down to the fact that how it's kind of is essentially a neon version of the Adam West Batman. It just didn't have me excited. I had built up any excitement. I was more interested in seeing like The Lost World and Con Air, and things like something just a little bit more adult, a little bit more. I wanted to kind of like I mean, this was the same year as Face Off, and that was like the one film I really wanted to see, even though it was an 18. I couldn't. I was underage.
Nope.
Yeah, that was that and Nelly Confidential. So it was things like that, and plus we had like I think remember Heat as well, that came out 2005. Actually, no, it's 2005. I'm going back a bit. I remember being really excited about that.
You're a decade out there, buddy.
Yeah.
Heat.
Heat came out early '96 in this country.
Early '96.
Yeah,
I always remember it in '95.
I think that probably was the case in America, but I think we got
okay.
I think we got it just after the New Year, but it was one side or other. Because I was in the first year. That probably makes
sense, because that was a film where like I was underage and I was like really excited. So that would have like been at a time where I started to get into films and kind of like, oh, this looks good. This is getting this little bit of attention, and I was like kind of like, oh, I really want to see it, but I was like 14 or something. I was like, I'm too young, kind of thing. So yeah. So it was around that sort of time where I started to grow up, be more interested in more adult sort of stuff, and I think just kind of like this came around. I was like, yeah, I'd watch it, but I think I just kind of like, yeah, I'd wait until I see it on video, and then never really bothered, and then time passed, and I just had no I had no interest in watching it. Not in a kind of like really sort of couldn't be arsed with it. Just in like my eye was drawn to other things. So take that what you will. So that's kind of where I am with it in terms of my history. So this is my first actual viewing of this film. How about you guys?
I will step in and probably say about the same. I think I can't remember if it was last week's film or this one. It was my first kind of like cinematic Batman viewing. Yeah, it's one of these things. I wasn't really like a massive filmer, but it was kind of burgeoning interest in film and cinema. And then probably because I'm just like a few years younger, they probably a few years later sort of picked up like Total Film, Empire magazines, for example. But yeah, I kind of think, I don't know, I'm going to say that Tomorrow Never Dies probably was the first Bond episode at the cinema. So I'd probably say this is probably the first Batman experience at the cinema as well.
I'm
so I'd have to go, I kind of started working my way backwards then. But no, I'd probably have to say the same sort of thing really. So it kind of started from here, and then obviously, you sort of go back and think, oh yeah, what else do we have available in this franchise?
What was your experience watching it when in the cinema? Can you remember? Do you remember actually liking it, or you remember it being like, oh, this wasn't actually that good? Or like,
I was just kind of mesmerised by all the bright colours.
Oh, okay.
all the Dutch shots, really. I think it was okay. I think it took me a while to kind of get sort of criticism, as it were, and to think, actually, that was a bit shit.
It kind of hit you just before, you were still at a time where it was the movie, so it was all good,
all a bit
regardless.
New, and plus we saw Donald, in a tight suit. Well, what are you going to do? So,
yeah.
Anyway, Dave, what about you?
I had not seen either Returns or Forever at the cinema. I'd caught up on them. I had seen them by this point, but I didn't care either way. I mean, I was by now a Batman fan, but none of the sort of films had wildly impressed me at all. I not hated any of them, but I'd really not loved any of them either. And I was quite close to my cousin around this point in my life. And we used to go to the cinema a reasonable amount. And I went to something with him, and there was a trailer for this film beforehand. And I didn't really know what to make of it. Because on the one hand, it looked very action-packed, which the film is actually. But one of the shots I can remember for the trailer are George Clooney saying to is Batgirl, "That's not awfully PC, is it?" And also the bit where they surf down from the rocket on the doors of the rocket. So I remember my cousin saying to me, "Christ, that really didn't do much for me at all." And that's kind of really all I remember. And then we ended up going to see it. And my two abiding memories of seeing it are that, firstly, I thought the first action sequence would never end. For good or ill, it went on forever. And then I just, I mean, it was just there, But there were several bits in the film that I made fun of. Not to the degree of the backlash it's had since and the way I feel about it since. But it was just, this is a bit ludicrous. And that was about it. And the more I've watched it over the years, the dafter it is. And I really don't know what to make of it in that, it's crap, by the way. There is absolutely no doubting that. But you look at Superman 4, and you think, well, with a big budget, it would have been shit. But bits of it would have been serious and at least trying. And you look at Die Another Day, and you think, well, again, they kind of know what they're making. And I think the truth is the same here. They know what they're making. This is deliberate. There's no accident in making this. They had a vision of what they wanted to make, and they've made it for good or ill. It's dreadful. I mean, there is absolutely no doubt about that. And as we go through it, I'm going to make an awful lot of fun of it. But it's not like they had this really great vision and botched the execution. They've actually executed very well a really dumb vision of how to make a Batman film.
I don't think there's any real heart in the film as well, because if this was just like, just a colourful toy shop of a Batman film, at least there would have been a little bit of like a joy, and a little bit of like, oh well, fuck it, who cares? Let's have some fun, kind of thing. And there isn't really that. It just kind of drags along, and it's just a bit dull more than anything. And that's probably the damning thing for me. But in defence of Schumacher, I do get the feeling this is a lot more studio influenced. I heard Schumacher say he wanted to make a much more dark film. He's much more interested in wanting to make like a lot more like the Frank Miller comics and things like that. But it was a lot more influenced by the studio, wanted to make it a lot more kid friendly and on all this. So I think he literally was just like, oh well, I'm just literally a hired hand here. So essentially, this is a studio-made film by all accounts. I don't think there's any filmmaker vision in this other than like the Schumacher's idea of cartoon of
you sort of get the idea that this is kind of made to sell toys,
and
action figures and things like that.
Yeah, and I think that when it comes to that, no one's really got their heart in it. Schumacher particularly, so that's going to come out in the film, so it's not really going to come out as like a dumb fun watch like you would kind of hope from this, and I think that's the saddest thing of all, really. I think
for all its kind of bright colours and fancy angles, there's no real soul to this film. It's just a bit of a...
You kind of watch it and think, I just really don't care. It's just a bit daft and a bit silly. And I said at the beginning of the podcast, like, Arnie's like, he kind of, like... I went into it kind of looking forward to it. I'm probably going to really enjoy this. Because, I know it's going to be shit, but I'm just probably going to enjoy Arnie just being really cheesy and saying a bunch of stupid lines. And it, like...
punning his way through the film.
Yeah, and you just think, oh, okay, but that's not even good. And I'm a big Arnie fan myself, so having Arnie on screen having fun does appeal to me. At least I'll go like, well, at least I'll get that out of it. And Arnie, for God bless him, he is the only one that actually seems to be giving it 100% here, and even he's handicapped by the dialogue and everything else, and. Even he can't really sort of make his role work, really. It's just, it's just a bit dull. And that's the worst thing about it.
It is, and, when you watch... I always remember watching... It's just occurred to me, actually. I remember watching Room 101 when it first started, which, for any foreign listeners, is based on the Orwell sort of concept of Room 101, where you'd have a presenter and a celebrity, and that celebrity would be talking about the things they really hate.
Yeah, so basically all the kind of worst things that you don't like.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny.
You can nominate to go into Room 101.
Literally just watched not long ago 1984. So
right.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah.
Wow.
How
about that?
Obviously in 1984 it's Rats, isn't it?
Yeah.
But Maureen Lipman appeared on it really early on. I think it was back in the sort of Nick Hancock era, mid-90s.
What happened to him? Jeez. Anyway, that's by the by.
Well, he went and became like a mortgage broker or something. He left show.
Oh, he just didn't fancy doing TV anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, Maureen Lipman went on it, and she tried to put in Carry On Columbus.
Oh.
Which she was in, which was a Carry On film they made in 92, about 16 years after the last one. And she was talking about how when you're in something shit and it's a comedy, you kind of just put on as many ticks as you can to try to be funny. And I watch Uma Thurman in this and think, yeah, actually, what's happened. They must know they're in shit. They must know they're in a terrible, terrible piece of work. I don't know if George Clooney had any feel for the character at all, and we'll get to what I mean in that in a minute. Uma Thurman, whatever you think of her, I've enjoyed her in a couple of things, and she was awful in this. Really, really awful. And I think I said last week when we covered Batman Forever that it's very easy to confuse those two, in that they look a bit similar. And in my opinion, they're both crap. I mean, Batman Forever has its defenders, and I understand why, but I don't like it very much. But it's easy to make it sound worse than it is because of this film. if you watch them back to back, there's just no comparison. This is just aimed at like 100 plus IQ points less. It's really, really bad, and only by talking it through and going scene to scene, as we will in a minute, can you really unpick how bad this was. It deserved to kill a franchise, and it didn't really need to be a Batman film either. In that, I know there's different interpretations of Batman, but they've handed Joel Schumacher a popular franchise and said make it toyetic, which is the word they used. In other words,
that's a word.
It's not a word, but they made it a word. You know,
it's an official word.
Let's sell toys off the back of this. Yeah. Well, they've been trying to do that since Batman Returns, to be fair, but it's so easy to go, well, comic books, kids love them, great toys, but when you think of Batman, it doesn't suit this at all.
No, it's the wrong kind of tone. I mean, we've had like the kind of the dark gothic elements of the earlier films, and this kind of goes more towards the kind of like bright colours or maybe campy elements of like Adam West sort of series, for example. But it's kind of almost in the other direction.
I think that's an insult to Adam West, though. And I didn't mean that.
I didn't mean him specifically,
Becca,
but to that era of.
I don't think you're insulting Adam West. I
I didn't mean like that, but I kind of meant in terms.
No, I think that's
the bright colours and costumes.
Is trying to do.
Yeah.
But if you actually watch a few episodes of the 60s series, and as I said at the time, it wears out its welcome quite quickly with me, but it's very nodding and winking, but it's also quite satirical. And when you watch this, it's just really dumb.
There's no brain to it at all, is there?
No, I think there is no doubt that I would take the Adam West take over this any day. No problem at all.
For sure.
Well,
definitely.
What do you think of Clooney? Do you think he was actually potentially was a good one, just in a crappy film, or?
I don't think he got Batman at all. I mean, George Clooney is Bruce Wayne. I mean, you think very rich, bit of a playboy. Less so now because he's married with children and all the rest of it. But,
is he Batman?
An intelligent, yeah, exactly. And I remember, and it's on the special features, but I remember it from the time as well. But George Clooney was saying that the first version of the script he read, he said, they still had things about his parents in there. And come on, he's 35 and he's rich and and his life's great. He's past that now. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I can understand not every Batman film can have him going, my parents, because I think that would be pushing it. But that is at the heart of everything Batman then goes on to do through his entire career. So the idea of Clooney going, oh, come on, surely he must be past that by now, tells me, well, you've kind of missed the point. Not his first words in the Batsuit, but his first words to like Freeze are, "Hi Freeze, I'm Batman." And I'm just thinking, God,
that's ridiculous.
Remotely changed your voice. He wasn't very comfortable in the suit. He wasn't very good in the film. He knows he wasn't very good in the film, but this is a hard film to be good in.
I did think it was a bit weird. I think so far, out of all the actors that we've seen so far to play Batman, he's the one who doesn't speak in a low register when he's got the Batsuit on. He's not in keeping with the Michael Keaton tradition.
Oh wait, he doesn't do like a gruff voice kind of thing.
No, it just sounds the same. Or to me anyway. I didn't really notice a big change.
I don't think he put anything different on.
No. He didn't go hi. Then he didn't go hi.
Yeah, but no one thought to even direct him in that way though. It was just kind of like.
He doesn't really have much kind of in terms of lines of dialogue. Pretty much. I mean, in terms of George, I think he's very charismatic to look at, for sure. But, I can believe him as Bruce Wayne, but I found him more difficult, more challenging so far as Batman.
I think he had a sweetness as Bruce Wayne, actually. When you watch his scenes with Alfred, there was a softness, a kindness there. We hadn't really actually seen in the role before. I liked him as Bruce Wayne, actually. When they said they were casting him, the thing is, he was 35 at the time. He was already starting to very lightly grey. And I just thought, that's perfect. He's like... Batman, in my head, is always about 35. And so Chris becomes Batman next month. That's how it works.
No pressure there, then.
Chris is going to have a full year
responsibility
as Batman. But Batman's always about 35, so he's perfect casting, a little bit older, a little bit wearier. The whole point of trying to like protect, Robin from himself, he should have been perfect casting. George Clooney should be about as good as it gets in this role, but it didn't work.
I mean, he does suffer that, like, I think what you were saying about Val Kilmer last week, like, regardless of what his suit he's in, he'd still be like, oh, that's George Clooney.
Well, I think it was really, really marked with Val Kilmer because the cowl was just so shaped to his face. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't have any problems going. Well, yeah, that's him. Yeah.
But but I suppose that's like picking, but especially in a film that's meant to be as light as this. But he is. I do get you saying he is quite a soft. Have some really nice scenes with Alfred and Alfred. Michael Gove as well. Michael Gove would
be a terrible Alfred.
Jesus Christ.
Alfred.
Michael Goff. Can you? I think I just pissed off I'll tell you. No.
There you go. Scenes we'd like to see Michael Gove as Alfred. No, thank you.
Yeah, but again, he's pretty. Michael Goff is pretty good in it, though. I must admit, he's probably one of the best things in it. And for what I said about Arnie, he is committed. I mean, I remember being on Big Breakfast at the time, promoting the film.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And I remember like sort of like the bit where he was playing the action figures, and like he had Mr. Freeze, and they were playing with Batman. He was like kind of slightly for comedic effect, but he was really getting to the characters like, I will crush you, Batman, I will destroy. He was probably really getting into it, and like, and it's like what Dave was saying like about Barney, like what Cameron has said, that he's always professional, he always shows up on time, and and for whatever it was, he must have really got behind this film, either for whether he had an actual passion for it or it's just being professional. But, he did really try. He did really sort of go in there and try.
You never get the shitty interview with Schwarzenegger because he's had no sleep or something's happened in his life. Arnold Schwarzenegger, I can find people, Barry Norman, who passed last week, was no fan of Schwarzenegger, not only as an actor, but as a man. But by and large, everyone's professional engagements with him are very positive.
Yeah, well, he's always a very charismatic screen presence, and he's worked hard to get to where he is. And I think one of the things why I think people still kind of like him, why he still has this aura of like of presence, and why people continue to like him, is because of the fact that he still works hard. He's still engaged with people. He's still friendly with people. He does that celebrity thing that he's supposed to do, and he doesn't sort of have any issues with it. He seems to want to be there. He's still kind of friendly with everyone. He jokes. He gets behind stuff about So he's a very likable presence, regardless of what you think of him personally. And he really does. And he's worked hard to get where. I mean, the guy has achieved things that you wouldn't even think of. I mean, he is a living embodiment of the American dream, so to speak. Someone who
pretty much
who moved from a completely different country from nothing and worked his way up to being pretty much as high as you can get.
By lifting things.
Yeah, well, all start from lifting things and just moving up. I mean, there's a funny thing. There was a funny sketch Bill Burr did a few years ago. I don't know if you know it, but just YouTube it. It's pretty funny, but also it does bring a good example of just like of what this guy has achieved from nothing, even though it's from a comedic kind of thing. It does talk about like fucking the maid and all that stuff. But it does establish that, but it's pretty funny how like it goes from like sort of start from lifting things, and it's like comes a champion. What you gonna do next? What you gonna next, Arnold? I'm becoming an actor. There's no fucking way you're gonna become a Hollywood actor, Arnold. Becomes like the biggest selling actor of all time. He just moves on and up, keeps going. So yeah, I mean, like you have to give respect to Arnold when it comes to things like this.
Definitely. I think out of the whole entire cast, I would probably say he's having the most fun on this film.
I still think he's fucking terrible in it, by the way. But he
He didn't give the best performance, but he's just having so much of a ball of the time.
Yeah, I think there's that. I think that maybe it's projection, as I've talked about before. When you know a certain something about a film, you twist the facts to fit what you think you know. And, you know, this film is miserable. George Clooney hated being in it and isn't very good in it. So now when I watch it, I tend to think I can see he's not enjoying it. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But certainly when I look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, I doubt he's got any particularly bad memories of this film.
I think he only spent something like 6 weeks shooting or something. It wasn't very long, was it?
Oh, almost every time you see him, it's not him.
There's a lot of stunts going on.
They didn't have a lot of time with Arnold Schwarzenegger, or a lot of days, or a lot of money.
No, he's very busy.
They kind of just they got whenever they didn't need his face, they tried not to use him.
There's a Bat Factor who was the original choice though, supposedly. It wasn't Arnold. I think Arnold was.
We'll get to that.
I don't know if they were. Yeah, I don't know if Becca had it for Bat Facts or not.
We'll get there.
Hulk Hogan?
No.
Okay, what? What Hulk Hogan is Mr. Freeze? Freeze, brother!
Freeze! I'm fucking my mate's wife.
And I have a few Bat Facts, but they don't involve that, unfortunately, because I thought that was too obvious. So anyway, you can go ahead and spoil that one.
Fine. Shall we discuss this film sequentially?
Oh, if we must.
So who wants to start then?
Okay, we start with Bat Butts. Becca!
Bat Butt. Yeah, we do. Well, this is... When I think about Batman and Robin, this is what I think of. Obviously, you've got like the various, new bat suits, obviously, because it's the sort of mid to the end of the 90s now, so everything's kind of sleek and sort of leather, and you've got a little bit of obsession coming through. But we see arms, legs, bums,
and it's all done with this sort of like whoosh,
leather cod pieces.
Like, sort of,
what the hell?
Sound like sort of like noises, like sort of.
The Batcave suddenly turned into an S&M dungeon or something.
Well, it just echoes the last film. It is similar, but the difference is it's Batman and Robin this time. But I joked about the dry ice last time, but this time, like the Redbird or whatever it's called, Robin's bike, is entombed in something that has neon fucking Robin signals in it.
That was pretty cool.
It's so... Oh, fuck, really, is it?
It looks really tacky, I must say. It does look pretty tacky.
It just comes across as a bit like... I mean, Robin comes as just a bit perfection. It's like, I want a car.
Chicks love the car.
Yeah, he's a bit of a spoiled brat. It's like, I want a car. Chick dig the car, And I was like, that's not even his Batman's line. I'm just get very frustrated by this film.
But again, it's meant to echo the car, the Val Kilmer line from last week. This is why Superman works alone.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've just delivered it any worse than George Clooney did.
No. And also, there's a whole strain, obviously, as we do know with these Batman movies, there's a whole strain running through about family and trust and things like that. And this kind of sets up for a little bit of distrust between Batman and Robin and, will they, won't they, kind of thing. And I don't think...
What will they, won't they, kids?
Well, not will they, won't they, but obviously as they end up as a trio with Batgirl at the end. But I think that's one particular thread that's not followed through very well. It's not well thought out. So I'm just going to say that's another fault for the film for me, unfortunately.
It's just the whole Poisin Ivy thing with the fact that, oh no, she loves me. You just want to get in the way. It's like, no, of course not.
That is so fucking contrived. I mean, I know she's supposed to get in their head, but like...
I do like the wax lips, though. The rubber lips, that's quite cool.
Yeah, but
anyway,
the joking aside, no pun intended, the kiss offline is fucking dreadful.
Yeah.
And that's the one where another podcast went, well, obviously the line would be, and yeah, we'll get to that.
So yeah, they all gear up. He has his bike. He's looking a bit ill. I mean, I don't know how old he was at the time, but
they sort of sow seeds that Alfred might be killed off.
Well, it kind of does. It kind of hints that he's going to die. Though it's kind of a funny one to kind of do with Alfred because you can't be with all due respect, Alfred is like an elderly guy, so you kind of have to think, well, how much life has he got left? So the prospect of Alfred possibly dying might be not a very pleasant one, but a possible logical one. if that makes sense.
For plot reasons.
Yeah, I mean, like it did strike me as a little bit. What's how much life are you actually saving here? You know, I mean, to save Alfred, what the big mission to.
Well, I mean, he might live another 10 to 15 years, and in fact, I think that's more or less what he did, because this is 97, and Michael Gough, I think, died in about 11. But I agree in that.
I know I sound a little bit heartless, but
no, I don't take it that way, Chris. It isn't that his life isn't worth saving. I don't think. I think it's the fact that if you set this up as an "oh my god," the natural reaction is, well, he's getting old. This is not going to turn anyone's world upside down. It's to be expected to a degree.
Yeah. I guess, and at the end of the day, you know, it's an easy one as well, because I think everyone likes Alfred. You know, he's more or less the heart and soul of the group. So I would imagine from that aspect, yes, it makes sense. Yeah. So it's just being with a cynical hat on.
Is this where he also says, "We'll cancel the pizza"?
Yeah, you can't
see it written down, and he's clearly never had one.
You don't have pizza in England, don't you know?
And they head off, and what I love about this is the bit where...
Doesn't that bit just make you cringe, though? Like, it does.
It's like, well...
It's like watching your mum and dad just try and say something that you just think, no, don't even try and...
The worst thing is when you don't correct them immediately.
Yeah.
Because my mum has been saying steroids as steroids for about 30 years now, and it's just too fucking late. I can't say anything.
Mum, it's steroids.
I can't really say no.
Dave, I think there's just some things that will just stick regardless of what you do. I like, you know.
Yeah, I do. I cringe only when I don't cringe about him saying it wrong, given his age. I do think that. It's another thing where you just think the director says, try it as pizza. Try it again, pizza. You know, actors are used to this. It's not patronising to say, can we have it again like this?
I generally thought it's probably deliberate.
What, as in, it's British and out of touch.
Yeah, well, kind of. It's like, you know, can you ever imagine Alfred, like, ever... ordering a pizza, it'll be something that's completely like foreign to him. So
I thought it was a bit like in Goldfinger, where Sean Connery goes Nazis instead of Nazis.
What did you say, Becca?
Similar to Goldfinger, where Sean Connery says Nazis instead of Nazis.
Yeah. I mean, there's loads of examples.
You say tomato. Let's call the whole thing.
You say tomato. Let's call the whole thing off.
Hamburgers, but there's no ham in these. I'm confused.
But moving along,
hot dog, you eat dogs?
They get in their vehicles, which I just found hilarious. The whole fucking Red Wing thing. But as he drives off, they obviously just bid the bat signal, so they head off and they don't know. The little video saying there's a new villain. Mr. Freeze, and I'm thinking, Christ, you haven't even got an organic way to introduce this, have you?
Poor Pat Hinkle, that's what he's been reduced to. There's a new villain in town, Batman.
Well, thanks for that. We couldn't have guessed. I mean, like...
He's changed his name from Commissioner Gordon to Commissioner Exposition.
Yeah, I suppose that is all he's there for, really.
And he's...
Basil Exposition.
And he's wearing police uniform in this one. He's like in a full-on... kitted out outfit. It's not in a grubby, well, not grubby, but he's not in a suit like he was previously.
You didn't think Nicole Kidman, I'll stick on my pyjamas.
No.
Yeah.
Sex things up a bit.
So they're at the Natural History Museum or something, aren't they? And it cuts to Freeze.
Yeah, he's there to steal a big diamond because it charges his suit.
Yeah, I don't know how much energy there is in diamonds. But okay, he wears a diamond-powered laser suit, something, to keep it at
It's the plot of Die Another Day.
It's fucking hell.
Oh, well, that's changed my mind. It must be superb then.
No wonder it's so bad. The plot's borrowed from Die Another Day.
Can you just imagine how, like, what effect, I mean, like, how much, what happens to the diamond when you use up all the batteries, just like, oh, well, that's...
Well, so it's just going to look like a crinkled up crisp packet or something.
Well, yeah, I mean, like,
no
I mean,
sense
that,
at all.
it's like that must be like really expensive. How much is this costing, like the world as well? Because I don't know what would happen if like you had some random person taking like something that's quite highly valuable.
I've no idea. What made me laugh about this is, well, there's lots of things about this film that you just go, oh my god. Firstly, the first look at him, I just thought, oh god, this is so garish. But the second thing is they drag a guard in front of him to beg for mercy, purely so he can get the pun out that the please leaves him cold. And then he fires the ice gun, which looks like, I mean, I don't know if this is CG or what obviously the effect is, but when they're encased in it afterwards, it just looks like the most cheapy plastic bollocks. And the thing is that this film cost $125 million. Last week's cost $100 million. Now, Arnold got about 23, so that'll probably explain some of the difference. But again, this is a significant budget for 1997, and it looks a bit cheap.
Yeah,
let me put it a different way, sorry. It looks expensive, but it looks tacky.
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned, I can't remember when you did, but, well, it might have been the last podcast. It's like Dolly Parton quote of, it costs a lot to look this cheap. It kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah. Batman comes through the skylight, which Joe Schumacher seems to like. We had that in the last one.
He likes a bit of skylight, doesn't
and
he?
he lands on top of, like, not a skeleton, not recovered fossils, but some plastic fucking Stegosaurus or something. And he goes, "Hi, Freeze, I'm Batman." Doesn't change his voice entirely. And when I
think it's a lot more casual than that. It's like, "Hi, Freeze, I'm Batman."
I know, all right. And the thing is, as well, it's shot in close up, and he's looking straight ahead, and he must be looking at something that's 4 feet away from him. And when you get the wide shot, he's hundreds of feet up in the air, miles away from Freeze, and Freeze watches him skid down the fucking spine of this thing, and head towards him to kick him over. This is shit.
It just, I mean, I don't know about you, Becca, but to me, it just felt like I was watching Batman on Ice. This whole sequence, it just felt like you were there at Disney. You're watching like a kid, like a stage show designed for like fun for all the family, and it's like Batman versus Mr. Freeze. So it's like everyone's on their ice skates. They play a bit of ice hockey. It just feels like, really,
it feels like a show.
Yeah. I mean, the whole stage element as well. It looks very it is a stage. It
is a stage, but I take what you mean in that my expectations would be different if I went to see some arena show with my children. I don't have kids, as you probably know by now. But as we go to you go to something with your kids, and you see him skate down a massive back of some dinosaur, fly through the air and kick them over. It'd probably be wire work. But you'd be impressed in that arena, I think, with it.
Oh yeah,
but context is everything.
It seems to all be about the stunts and the wire work, as you say, rather than the plot or the defeating of the villain by the hero, for example. But yeah, it does feel to me like as if you are going to watch Batman on Ice, and they're just doing a few cool stunts. But yeah, it looks very cheap, very tacky. The Hi Freeze, I'm Batman bit is probably, I imagine, for the trailer.
It was.
Yeah, let's say the best bits.
That was a worrying sign in the trailer. I was like, oh dear. Like I say, I'm not the biggest fan of the Bale Batman, for example, but
you never hear him go,
"Hi, Bane, I'm Batman."
Well, no, because
excuse me.
But yeah, no, I take what you mean, and of course, Robin comes bursting through the door, leaving the Robin fucking symbol as the perfect shape in the door.
Cool. I thought that was quite fun.
Brilliant.
I found that quite amusing. Creative amusing.
Yeah, I think you kind of know what you're in for when that happens, don't you? You just kind of
It's very much cartoon, didn't you? I mean, because before shouting action, Joel Schumacher was like, "Okay, remember, kids, this is a cartoon. This is the look we're going for. Go for it."
Yeah, and I mean, George Clooney was saying you can't hear anything, you can't move. You kind of put in the suit on like a board and then sort of leaned forward. this isn't good, but this does start an action sequence that, although I think it's terrible, and cut in with bad lines, goes on for ages. And when it finishes, I genuinely didn't know how to feel about the film first time I saw it, because it was terrible, but they'd thrown so much effort at it, you know? I mean, they tap their heels together, and they've got skates in their boots. Because this must come up every day, where you've suddenly got, like, an ice rink. And bear in mind, they weren't told it was Mr. Freeze until they were on the way. So it's not like, oh, it might be something icy there.
I'll put on my ice suit.
And then basically he says, you get the ice, I'll get the Iceman, meaning Robin, go and get that fucking diamond back, and I'll go and sort out Mr. Freeze. They end up, it's the hockey team from hell. That's the best line they could come up with when there was a hockey team there.
Is the hockey team from For Your Eyes Only?
Yeah. Although not as gritty as Sir Rog.
No.
And then they call up. I tell you what I thought of when I saw this film this time was the second Fantastic Four film. By the second, I mean the second in that Tim Story series in the 2000s, not the second in total. In the film starts with Mr. Fantastic and whatever she's fucking called getting married, and the wedding gets put off while they save the world, and she's really upset about that. Like, we as the audience are supposed to be going, where are your priorities? Right? And I feel a bit like that about this film, in that, like, Batman ends up getting, like, fucking frozen very, very carefully to the sides of the inside of this, like, rocket thing. And when Robin turns up, like, Batman's going on at him about, like, betraying orders. Are we supposed to buy into this family fucking drama, given Batman was totally fucked at the point where Robin turned up?
And it's all just very campy, isn't it? I mean, Robin just comes across as a little bit kind of petulant, like that annoying teenager.
Doesn't work on a 25-year-old as well, does it?
No, it doesn't. I mean, like, I get they do the best to kind of sympathise with, like, Batman to kind of, like, keep pushing him aside and things like that, but then with him acting like a bellend all the time, you kind of don't really blame Batman. So, yeah, I mean, they do. I mean, he does save him in a rocket. I mean, but by the way, Mr. Freeze jumps in a rocket. By the way, halfway through this sequence.
Yeah. Batman gets in there and he ends up being supposedly frozen by the wrists to the side of the wall. But there's two things about that. Firstly, Freeze appears.
Why didn't you just freeze him?
Well, Freeze also, not only that. I mean, that's the obvious point, but that's a bit James Bond slow dipping mechanism. Yeah. But also, he fires the freezing gun at him totally indiscriminately. And when you get the reverse shot of Batman, it's like he's done it with a fucking surgeon's scalpel. It's so fucking, like, accurate. And the other thing is, you can see, certainly with the left hand, I don't know about the right, but I noticed it with the left hand, you can see where Clooney's put his hand through the mould and just over the top. There's no way that looks like he was frozen into it. They built a mould on the wall and he's put his hand in.
It's like, it should have had that Homer Simpson thing, you know, where Robin gets in, he's like, are you just holding onto the ice? Oh.
Oh,
you're just holding onto the sweets. Oh.
Yeah. And I love the fact that they're there to stop this thing exploding because it will destroy Gotham. And they do that by letting it, exploding it over Gotham. Can you spot the flaw in their plan?
Yes, but it's done dead high up. No one really notices.
This thing blows up.
Yeah, it's really high up.
And then they blow it up.
It'll be fine.
I don't get it. But anyway, Freeze comes out and with, like, the Vulture's wings or something. And
that wing is all terrible.
Yeah, and then they surf down on the doors, which was in all the trailers.
Yeah, I mean, that was like kind of the ending shot, wasn't it? Was the thing exploded and...
Cowabunga!
Yeah, it's a wonder they didn't put, California Girls or something over the top of it as a backing track.
Well, it didn't have Roger Moore in it, and John Glenn directing. I like John Glenn, but yeah, California. You're thinking of start of A View to a Kill.
View to Kill, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put in all the Bond references in an attempt to make this film better than it is.
Better, because Actually, I think this is worse than the worst Bond film.
Oh.
And this is worse than Die Another Day, but we'll
Yeah, you
get
might.
to that later.
They're on the same level.
Is it worse than Octopussy?
Yeah, of course it is. Octopussy's a perfectly competent film. It just had an older Bond, and I get bored by it.
Is it worse than Never Say Never Again?
Yeah, of course it is. Say Never Again, I quite enjoy.
Is it worse than Diamonds Are Forever?
I'd rather watch it than Diamonds Are Forever because it's a lot of laughs. But yes, of course it is.
I probably watched Diamonds Are Forever than this.
Die Another Day is its closest equivalent because it's totally over the top and loads of money thrown at like.
Yeah, it's over the top, very cartoonish, lots of bright garish colours.
Lots of ice, lots of diamonds.
But that's a Bond film turned up to like 15, not 11. This bears no relation to a proper Batman film. They've completely fucking lost touch with reality on this in every single way. Robin ends up getting frozen, doesn't he?
Yes, he does, by being like overeager.
Icy prison.
What was he trying to do? Because when you watch him get frozen, he appears to be throwing himself to the floor. Now, I think the point is he's supposed to be diving at freeze, but he's several feet away and way too low.
I guess, but I mean, if I was going to defend it, I would say being kind of frozen partway through helped in that kind of way. You know what I mean? It, like, had Mr. Freeze not shot, I think he probably would have like had a bit more. He would have jumped further and higher, but like having like
he was just lifting off. Yeah, all right, okay, fair enough. I'll buy that.
But that's my best defense. I mean,
and this is where Akiva Goldsman uses his soon-to-be Oscar-winning ability to seed future plot points by us finding out that he's got 11 minutes to save Robin. So if you're frozen, as long as you're dipped in some warm goo, within 11 minutes you'll be all right.
What's it's the old countdown to create tension, isn't it? There's a countdown.
It's seeding the last action sequence of the film, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. It's going to be an echo of that later on.
Okay. Is it around the time... Now, I seem to recall, because I haven't watched this for a while, I seem to recall... Isn't it here we find out about Freeze's background? In that, because I seem to remember Robin was still wearing something to warm himself up while Bruce explains.
Yeah, there is... before that, you get introduced to Poisin Ivy.
Is that before that? Is it?
Yeah, there's a scene where Poisin Ivy is introduced, and sort of you get the setup where she's like working as for a crazy scientist, and they're working on this venom for the plants.
What do you think of this, folks?
Cringe. I like her animatronic plants though. I think they're pretty cool. For all the CG that you get in today's films, I must admire this film's in-camera effects and sort of animatronic.
Yeah, model work. It does go
model
for
work.
it.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah. I do like that a lot. What did I see? This is just a sort of a recent sort of thing. The film club that I belong to, we saw the 40s original Beauty and the Beast, and obviously that was for wartime audiences. And I was thinking for a film of limited budget from that era, the amount of obviously they had to be very creative with the effects that they had, and I think the amount of like in-camera effects, like reverse photography, and sort of time lapse and things like that, I think was really clever. And I do. So there's so much that can be done with CGI these days. Like, for example, the Planet of the Apes movies, which we'll get to, is a good example of that. But I do like this film, I do admire the lot of in-camera effects and also physical vehicles and physical effects that are used rather than like CGI, for example. But that's just that's one of the very few plus points I like about this film. Anyway, moving on.
No, well, you have to find some positives, haven't you? And I know it's difficult. Yeah. I mean, the model work is good, but the problem is you don't get a good scope of like Gotham itself. You just get like a series of structures, which is nice to look at, but you get no sense of Gotham itself, which is I suppose kind of lacking. So we get introduced to the crazy scientist, and he's then making plants, and he makes He's trying to make the Bane guy, the Bane plant take on character, and then we go back to the Batcave, and we see like kind of similar to last week with like we get the origin of the villain done through a TV clip while as Batman's watching it.
Oh yeah, you could totally say there's a formula being laid down. This is the worst health and safety in human history.
It really is.
It's almost. I think we almost kind of see that in Star Wars as well. The Death Star,
What, where they just stood by the? I get that. But at least you know that ray is going in a straight line and it doesn't pass where you are. This guy is stood by some random dials, Doctor No style, with his back to a vat of chemicals, with no guardrail. They randomly spark and he falls into it. And then the CCTV camera suddenly flips to over him. And he's coming, you know.
in the Arnie kind of way.
He's going, what, Dave? Do that again.
And this is where it all goes north rather than south, you see.
Get it in stereo.
This is really fucking funny. And it's not meant to be. It's supposed to be showing you his origin. And it's just one of the most hilarious videos I've ever fucking seen.
The thing is, though, like, there is potential with Mr. Freeze. You know, the fact that this is, like, a brilliant scientist who actually has something, you know, we can all relate to.
And it could be morally ambiguous as well, couldn't it, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, like...
He's just trying to get his life back and his wife.
Yeah, he's what he's doing is out of kind of love. He's basically just an old, big, soft romantic, and he's just kind of lost touch with humanity, and he just wants to kind of find a cure, and all he needs to sort of do the crime stuff so he can get diamonds, so he can survive, to continue his work to find a cure for this disease as well. You know,
and it's driven him mental in the.
Yeah, so there is like a way to actually have a really good villain that's actually complex and you actually sympathetic for. You know, you
I don't think that's Arnold Schwarzenegger though, is it?
I think that's a bit unfair.
Somewhere in there.
No, Chris, I'm
not.
I'm not trying to slag him here. I'm just saying that when you put it the way you just put it, would he really be your first choice?
It depends. I mean, to be honest, I generally do think he could do it. Obviously, you know, there are better actors out there, but I do think he has something in him that, you know, whether it be a better script, a different director.
Script has a lot to do with it because they've hired Arnie and his puns as well.
Yeah, they could have. They could have got something out of him. I do think Arnie is a better actor than he gets credit for.
I tend to agree, Chris. I think a lot of the problem is you look at... I mean, there's a scene a bit later on. Maybe we'll come back to it. Maybe this is all we need to say about it. Where he's watching his wedding video. And that could be really touching. But then he freezes someone and says, I hate it when people talk during the movie. And I'm thinking of all the times where you just, like, don't do the pun. That's the point, where you don't do the pun.
Any sort of shred of character security or kind of... believability is undone by these terrible puns.
Yeah. But I love it, Poisin Ivy's Genesis, where she actually comes out of the ground and describes exactly what's happening to her. And I'm thinking, that's quite impressive. My blood is being replaced with
skin is becoming chlorophyll.
Yeah. And
well,
then
how else will we know?
Poison.
Yeah, how, unless you don't tell us, how will we know what is happening to you?
I know, I get why, but it's just so fucking lazy.
Well, it's just
it's the only time in the film she kind of looks a bit sexy. She looks a bit ridiculous later on, but actually...
I love her costumes. Oh, my life.
I do at this stage, but later on less so. But obviously, Bane is just a plant venom used that, you know, he's sharing a lab. They were shut down by Wayne Enterprises, we find out later, because he's crazy. The guy that plays Bane in his fully hulked out state... Duke Swanson, he died about 2 months after the film was released. Heart failure. But
did you see a preview or something?
I do wonder if that was it.
Sorry.
I mean, Bane has always been smart. So this
I think that the Tom Hardy version that we'll be seeing very shortly, is probably one of the better
Yes, I think it's great take on the character.
Charlie says, look both ways before crossing the road.
The super hulked out, roided element, they've kind of got right, but Bane's meant to be a bit smarter than that.
Yeah, he's a bit of a blunt instrument here, isn't he? But I think next week, later on, when we see him again, he'll be a bit brighter than what he is now.
He'll be very smart next time we see him. Essentially they just go after like a henchman type character, so they kind of looked at what there was and thought, oh, right, there's a Bane guy, because he was still like a fairly new character as well, so...
I didn't need the subtitles on this time.
Well...
So I can understand what he said.
Well, he doesn't have a line of dialogue, does he?
No, he doesn't. He just goes...
Monkey work.
So, yeah, it's just like big muscle man with lots of...
I think next episode we'll have to outbane each other. That'll be quite fun.
Okay.
Try to do silly impressions.
I've not heard Dave's take, but
I think Chris is going to win this one.
Well, I've worked on it. I can actually do it without covering my mouth. So.
Oh, can you? Oh.
Yeah. Yes,
right.
I can. Yeah, they did it all.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
That's Bane out in the world. Mr. Freeze created and Poisin Ivy. What makes me laugh is when they team up, but we'll get to that. So where do we go from there?
Well, basically, yeah. So Ivy's created. We get to Freeze, and he's making his gang sing a song, which is a bit weird.
Yeah.
He's like, we get introduced to his like. It does make me wonder, like, like all these Batman villain things. Like, how do they get these henchmen? Like, how's he paying? Like, how well is he paying them to do all this crap for him? like Two-Face last week. Like, oh, you have to be my gang, but you kind of have to dress like a tit, and you'll probably die because I'll probably kill you because I'm that crazy. It's like, how do they get people to work for him?
I don't know. Particularly when you got to live in a fucking icebox.
Yeah, as well. It can't be appealing, can it? But so there's that. So we get introduced to his wife. Get more of a story on that, really. And yeah, Ivy kills her boss, and then teams up with Bane, and then we get, and then Barbara arrives at Wayne Manor.
Hell, what is this about? I mean,
I just love it. She says, "I'm from England," and I'm thinking, really?
Valley Girl.
Really?
What I also love is she hadn't changed out of her school uniform. I mean, you got to get to London, probably, maybe Manchester, but certainly a major city in this country, and fly over there. I don't know where Gotham's is. Let's imagine it's a stand-in for New York.
It's that area, isn't it?
Well, let's say it is. If it is New York, for example, you're looking at probably an 8-hour flight now. Plus, you got to get to the airport and check in and everything else. So, from the very thought, if she lived quite near to London, from the very thought of doing it, if she had the money on it, is, 12, 15 hours probably. And she's still in her uniform. And, hi! I'm from... it reminded me of Blackadder's Christmas Carol. 9! I am from Glasgow.
Yeah, I mean, there's some implication. It's like Uncle Alfred, like the old family friend, but it's implying that he's actually her father, really. Because it was like
because he's totally in love with Barbara's mum.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. She's turned up. She's escaped. She's basically run away from school in what Americans think a British school uniform looks like. And I have to say, they're not miles off, to be fair. But it's the Oxbridge Academy, which is clearly mixing Oxford and Cambridge and Academy to imply smart.
Well, it's just the shorthand, isn't it, really?
Well, it's just she's really smart.
Yeah.
And cares for Alfred. So instead of being related to Jim Gordon, she's related to Alfred. So she's Barbara. I don't think it's Pennyworth, but whatever it is. Barbara Wilson, I think it was.
Yeah, no, because a father, like a mother married someone else. So
Yeah.
you're left assuming that he's the father, but there's some sort of like thing of like
the next few decades knocking one out a lot. Okay, so she gets to stay at Wayne Manor. Alfred's not very well. And then we get to the telescope, which will have nothing to do with the end of the film, obviously.
Yeah, there's a press conference.
Some wonderful, important role acting and character development from Elle Macpherson.
Yeah, her character is vital to this film. I can't see it. I can't see a film existing without her in this.
To be honest, I've got not a word to say against her. It's not her fault in the slightest.
Oh no, I mean like it's a nothing role. There's literally I think she's in 3 scenes in total.
What's the third then? Because I remember her in this scene where she's, and he's talking about this telescope. We'll get back to that in a minute because there's a point to that telescope. And I remember the dinner they have at Wayne Manor where you see an Ivy. What's the third?
I generally cannot remember. I do remember that this is how impactful her role is. Like I generally cannot remember specifically. I remember. Because I had to watch it a couple of times, and I remember sort of thinking that same thing. For hang on, she's not even in it since she didn't for 2 scenes. But I remember popping up towards the end. I don't know whether it's just before the climax or just afterwards. I think it's just afterwards when they're wrapping up. But it's not. She
might be there at the end when he gets better.
It's not that like. Memorable. So
now, Pamela Isley has turned into Poison Ivy, gathered Bane, and headed for Gotham to meet Bruce Wayne to go on about how like plants are dying and shit.
Yeah.
And he's talking about and he said we had to shut them down because Dr. Woodrue, or it was Jason Woodrue, was it?
Yeah,
it is Jason Woodrue. He shut him down because he was nuts, which I think we saw proof of that. And they're showing off a telescope which can basically redirect the rays of the sun around the world. And he says something about don't point it at my bedroom because he's so fucking like, what a lad. And he also says, she says something about marriage. And it's the one part of the film where I just go, God, he's terrible in that scene. Marriage? What? Marriage?
I just thought, well, that's just George Clooney. Real life, isn't it? He's basically just being George Clooney.
Is what he thought at the time, but I'm sure he could convince me that he wasn't. Yeah, all right, fair enough. So yeah, she comes off as totally nuts in that scene. Why she doesn't just use her fucking, pheromones to convince him or something, I don't know, but she doesn't. What else? We've then got. Where did we go from that?
Oh, from the press.
Did we go to the charity event from there?
Yeah, it is basically like sort of they set up this charity event with this batch because they figure out that Mr. Freeze using diamonds.
They've worked.
So they want to lure him out.
Because the Wayne diamond is one of the biggest in the world.
Mm-hmm. So they do this fundraiser to kind of entice Mr. Freeze, and they'll say Batman and Robin will be there. Which, okay, I guess if you want to entice Mr. Freeze, you want to say Batman and Robin won't be there. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. That might seem as a bit of an enticement for not going. But yeah, so Ivy then gate crashes it and then like sort of spreads her little fairy dust.
Pheromone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is this where they have the auction?
Yes. Though I can't remember anything about the auction.
All I remember is they bid for her, and Dick and Bruce are bidding against each other. And he says, "You haven't got any money," and Dick replies, "I'll borrow it from you," which is that's supposed to be spiky dialogue. It's rubbish. And when he says 5 million, 6 million, and all the rest of it, he gets out a Batman credit card.
Yeah.
With good through forever. Never leave the cave without it. And I love that when you think about Batman, whatever the take on the character,
product placement.
Yeah, but there's an element of fear. There's supposed to be. He's scary because you're not quite sure what he is, and he strikes out of nowhere. Him stood around at like a party doesn't really work.
Well, this is more the Adam West Batman now, isn't it? We've kind of gone away from the dark and scary. I mean, you could even say that the Burton films, he moved away from that a little bit. But now you're in Schumacher's universe, and now it's a little bit. And now it's all very sort of...
But with special guests, Batman and Robin.
Yeah, it's all sort of, hey, this is for kids, so there's no room for any of this sort of
totally
dark, kind of like, I am the night, kind of, I am justice, sort of like...
Freeze does crash it, and he does get captured, and ends up at Arkham in like a frozen beam.
Yeah. There's more tension with Robin, with like Batman not trusting Robin. See, Robin's being too overzealous.
That's
so
right.
He kind of resents
it was all part of that chase because he disabled the Redbird, didn't he?
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Thrilling.
Okay. At the same time, Barbara's taking place in like a part in street races.
Yeah.
Bikes.
Just because to prove that she's like capable of doing something
spunky.
Yes.
This is bollocks.
I don't know what that says about her character though. The fact that she like sneaks out. It's like, okay, so what does that mean? She got this kind of like. I suppose if anything,
I think it's suggestive that she's got the skill set to be a superhero.
Well, probably that's more likely. That's more likely.
It obviously does.
Yeah. Okay. So at the same time, they work out Alfred's dying of McGregor syndrome.
Yes, but the very thing that Freeze was working to cure.
Yeah, working to find a
That's
cure
handy,
for.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that a real thing?
No, of course it's not.
I think
no.
it was
But
made
having
up
said that,
after
when you
one of
look
the
at like,
producers or...
well, we covered Star Trek, didn't we? When you look at the last series of The Next Generation, Picard had Irremotic syndrome, which is clearly meant to be some version of Alzheimer's. Doesn't matter what this is, frankly. It's just it's an illness that's going to rob him with vitality and kill him.
Yeah, it's named after one of the producers of the film, I think. McGregor syndrome. Yeah, something McGregor. So, Mr. Freeze is in the slammer. Yeah, he's in the cooler.
My name is Freeze. I learn it well. For the chilling sound of your doom. I think that's meant to be your doom, not your doom.
Because your doom.
It's the chilling sound of your doom.
of the doom.
Your doom. He's crap in that scene. I know he's got an accent, and I know he's not always bad, but he's bad in that scene.
Let's face it. Who's particularly good in this?
No, I know he's broken out by Bane and Pamela.
Yeah, Poisin Ivy shows up. Yeah,
because a world encased in plants and a world encased in ice, totally compatible aims.
Well,
obviously.
the idea is Freeze to kill off humanity with his ice powers, and then leaving the rest of.
And then he'd like it nice and tropical. It doesn't work, Chris.
I know. I'm just explaining what the plot says. That's all.
Well, they might be hardy perennials. You never know.
Winner.
Yeah, you can go and live in the Antarctic. It'll be fine.
Okay. So Bruce is telling Dick, "Trust me now," because he keeps seeing her and all the rest of it, and they're in love with him. Robin then goes off to meet her, and she kisses him. And this is the line. I've got to give a shout out to Alex Shaw, it was Digital Gonzo at the time. It's now School of Movies.
Hang on, haven't you jumped ahead?
Where have I jumped from?
Like this is a bit of the rubber lips.
Yeah.
No, that's like towards the end, because if Ivy kisses him, he's dead.
Yeah, but she doesn't kiss him, does she?
Okay.
Or she does kiss him, sorry, and he is protected.
Yes, no, that is towards
that. He puts a condom on his lips.
That is towards the end.
Okay, I thought we were getting that way.
I
was hoping we were getting that way.
I was going to say. No, we have a bit more plot too. I'm afraid.
Okay.
But
please share with us this plot.
Okay, well, they escape Arkham, and they jump a very hefty foot into water, which would probably kill any human. And basically, Batman. All I remember is like there's the CT footage of Ivy and Bane working together, and then they show him this picture, which just looks so crap. Like it's like Bane in like this like coat and hat, like trying to look like.
Because he fits in perfectly.
It just looks really, really fucking. But it's not only just that. It just looks how it's like completely just like photoshopped. Like it just looks really, really fake.
It doesn't look great.
So. No. But there's a bit about like they find obviously Freeze's wife, and then there's a whole thing with Ivy comes in. And she unplugs him, and then she escapes. There's a bit more tension with Robin because like she entices him, and then Batman says no because apparently Batman is less susceptible to her charms for some reason.
Probably because he's older. I don't know. Some shit.
Well, because he's more of a man.
Did Roberto Orsi write this?
No.
All right, carry on.
Sadly not.
Is this where the kiss happens, or is that later?
That's later on. There's a bit more of like sort of nice scenes with Alfred and Batman. I think there's a few nice things with Alfred because there's the whole looking back on when his parents were shot and him kind of looking after him, and there's nice sort of emotional goodbyes and things like that. So basically, Freeze blames Batman. We are getting towards the end, don't worry. We are zip pasting towards the end. So this could be a short podcast, folks, and I do apologise.
We'll be zipping along to the end as quickly as Batman zips along that dippy.
Yes, zipping along. Robin wants to split up because he's like sick of Batman holding him back, and he's in love with Ivy.
They basically fight over Poisin Ivy, don't they?
Yeah, and Robin like wants a new signal. He wants his own signal.
Why? If you know,
because he wants he wants to break free from Batman. He wants to work on his own, so he wants to be like his own thing. Which I think that's incorporated with the imagery, isn't it? There's a new thing where they put the Robin signal and the Bat signal together, so it comes like and then they have him and Bruce have a one-on-one chat about about trust, and like I'm asking you to trust me, and it's like kind of goes, oh, okay, then fine, everything's all hunky dory.
Well, we don't know for certain, do we? Because when he goes off to meet Ivy, we don't know that he has agreed.
Well, he goes alone, doesn't he? Initially goes alone, and then there's like the thing where we kiss him, and he goes, oh, poor bird boy, or whatever she says, and he's like, nope, I'm wearing rubber lips.
Well, that's the line I was on about. That he wears like protection over one lip actually, because he only pulls it off one lip. But anyway, he's got a condom on his lips, if you like, as protection. Not
think so. He'd be screwed if she goes like, all right then, and he just snogs him again.
Yeah, tongue. Brilliant. Yeah, I was going to say, he's still totally at our mercy. But what made me laugh is the line. And the thing is, I never thought about it at the time, but like I said earlier, Alex Shaw pointed out the obvious line there is, my lips are sealed.
They didn't do it.
He came up with, what a line this is, rubber lips are immune to your charms. That's fucking dreadful.
Maybe because his lips aren't sealed.
Well, it's dumb either way. I kind of think, well, his lips aren't sealed, but neither's rubber lips.
Yeah, they can't come up with a appropriate pun.
I think they just try to come up with a pun at every opportunity. Yeah. And just like, oh, what have we got? Shit, okay, that'll do. So yeah, and then Batman breaks in, but they both get tangled up, as a man of speak. But lucky for them, and this is while all this is happening, Barbara gets.
She cracks the world's hardest password, obviously.
That's a very 90s trope, isn't it? That kind of computer hacking.
I know, she gets into the cave.
And typing literally like...
Peg. Peg is the password. 3 letters.
Edgar.
But the other thing is, Alfred has programmed his brain algorithms. In other words, he's created a virtual reality him in the style of Max Headroom.
I was going to say, it looks a bit like Sledgehammer.
Well, that would imply that like he would die then, because if you're gonna have like if you're gonna have like a Max Headroom Alfred in the
doesn't matter if he dies then. This algorithm can create outfits and everything. And the other thing is, it worries me. It really worries me that this old man knows Barbara's size. He's been having a really good fucking look, hasn't he?
I sized you up.
I just like the idea. It's rubber boobs.
I know, this is bad. No training. It was like, well, I anticipated you thought you'd want to join in, so here's your suit.
And I love that like thing.
Take me up, Alfred.
I like that
rubber
thing in movies where in computer screens where they project on someone's face.
Yeah. And it's always the wrong way round as well, in that it's the right way round, if you take my meaning.
Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah. So she comes in and she beats Ivy because, she's a woman, so obviously.
She films it upside down on her belt, but the right way round.
Yeah.
So that's brilliant. You get the film angle of that later.
And then she goes...
Something about her being compost and giving women a bad name.
Yep.
And all that,
as a nod to kind of like the PC brigade almost, because she's like, what did she call it? Batgirl, Batwoman. She goes, that's not very PC. How about Batperson?
Yeah, fucking terrible. Anyway, what made me laugh also with all her bunking obstacles made her really good at martial arts. Shit. And the other thing I love is they were going to go with like a proper cowl to start with, and of course they went with like the little fucking domino mask. And it made me laugh when Alfred sees her and she's going, "It's me, it's Barbara," and it's like, no fucking shit, of course it is.
I wouldn't have known.
Thanks.
It's like
great.
like you can't put 2 and 2 together as well. It's like, hang on, she's dressed almost exactly like us. I wonder who it could be. Do you think it might be Alfred?
Well, given she's got a load of like bat-paste paraphernalia, which can only come from that one place, yeah, I mean, who else could it be?
Yeah.
But anyway, that's fine.
But obviously,
so
obviously Alfred likes respect to Batman's vision to work alone. It's like, just let everyone willy-nilly. Yeah, it's fine. Just
brilliant. You've expressed an interest, and I've looked at your tits. I know your size. Absolutely brilliant. Away we go.
Yeah, it's like you think maybe Bruce and to that extent Robin might want to have a say in it. Like, oh no, it's fine. You just
yeah, fuck off, you stupid old man.
God.
Oh.
I love Alfred, but like, I wouldn't love him so much if he was like taking it on himself like this.
I know he gets. I know there's like the big thing in the first Batman film where he just lets Vicky into Batcave, but literally he must do it in every single fucking film, doesn't he?
Yeah, I know, but that might have been. You could at least argue that might be for the best in the first one, but you can't argue that here. It's stupid.
Well,
and then where do we go from there? So don't we go to the whole final fucking?
No. We go to the not satellite, the auditorium where the telescope is, and that's what Freeze is going to use to freeze Gotham with.
Yeah, I like the fact that it's really urgent. Batman and Robin and Batgirl have only got time enough to go home and switch to new suits and a new set of vehicles that might involve promoting toys.
Yes, because that is very important.
Piss poor, really bad. The argument.
Do you not like this, Dave?
The argument was it was supposed to be
Can you tell?
It was supposed to be an anti-freeze, pardon the pun, kind of suit. But it is obviously an opportunity to put them in something new that you can sell. And it looks ridiculous. He's just got all these white flashes on his outfit. And they get there, they drive over ice, but it's supposed to be them driving over an iced up Gotham, but it looks like them driving on like a white floor in a studio. It looks awful. And they get to the Gotham Observatory where he's supposed to be using He's supposed to be using that device to freeze the world, isn't he? No, he isn't. He's freezing Gotham, and they're going to use that device to unfreeze it by getting the sun from like Australia.
From Australia,
right?
Yeah. So they're on the way, and Batman. They both zip higher up, but they're
they've got about 600 meters worth of stuff in their belt.
And they zip wire up, but Batman and Robin and Batgirl fall, and then they left to fight Bane in the easiest way possible. And
a very elaborate, easily escapable, exotic death.
Yeah, basically it's like, oh no, we'll just kick one of those wires out, and then he's done. And then Batman gets up to the top and has a fight with Freeze. Beats Freeze, but Freeze blows up the the telescope, meaning that you can't undo what he's already done. So, with the help of Batgirl, because she's now tech savvy and not Robin, she hotwires the computer to get the satellites to kind of beam in the rays into Gotham, unfreezing everyone. And Batman appeals to Freeze, to his good nature, saying, "You were a doctor. I didn't. You know, he had a convenient video recording of Ivy's confession as well.
He did, and it was the right way up, even though it was filmed upside down.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's back computer, isn't it? You know, smartphones can do that, can't it? He first had to go like after like finding out he's been betrayed. He gives Batman the antidote and says like, "Take 2 and call me in the morning." Which is probably my favourite line in the film, but still a really good pun, I think. And then that's pretty much it. I mean, Mr. Freeze.
Oh, they go back to treat Alfred, don't they?
Yeah, and everything's.
What makes me laugh about that? I noticed it first time I saw it, which is unlike me. Robin is wearing his original suit by mistake back at Wayne Manor.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he's wearing that sort of red version of Nightwing outfit back at the thing, so they put him in the wrong stuff. Alfred makes a fucking miracle recovery.
Like just in one day.
No recuperation period, just bang on straight away. And then they talk about, family partners.
Yeah. And it's all one big happy family. But before they run off towards the camera, kind of bat signal, we get the wrap up of Mr. Freeze in prison, and he's going to work on the cure while in prison. Now, kind of pretty much fully reformed. He's pretty much like happy with himself. He's like,
yeah.
But
hang on, don't they put him in with Ivy?
Yeah, they do, and which kind of made me think which kind of makes me think. So, what
Surely
exactly?
That's a rape risk in prisons.
Like,
I mean,
what's he going to do? Just beat her up?
Prisoners in with women, do you?
Well, the idea, the fact that he's that angry and pissed off of her.
Yeah, it's like, you're going to get your comeuppance now, and it's like, surely they keep a fucking eye on these people.
So does that mean like every day he's just going to pound the shit out of her? Like, with
I don't know.
It's like, hang on, this can't be fucking like So given that Ivy's now like Riddler was at the end of the last movie, like she's pretty much like gone doolally. It's just okay.
It's just bollocks, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, I can see I see your enthusiasm waning. So, but there isn't really much to talk about. We've gone through the film kind of like as it is. So, yeah.
I mean, I'll just do my final thoughts very quickly. It's a difficult film to critique just because it is irredeemably bad. Even when you talk about something like Superman 4, you can talk about the budget, you can talk about the compromises that were made. They threw a massive budget at this, gave it to a guy who'd had a big hit with a Batman film only 2 years before, put into the role a man who was the hottest thing in American television and had a couple of breakout hits in film as well. Cast a supermodel, cast one of the biggest stars in the world in Arnold Schwarzenegger. Uma Thurman was reasonably big news around this time. and they've produced this, and there's absolutely no excuse for it. The only thing I can say in its defense is I think they made the film they set out to make. Whereas you look at something like Superman 4 and it's horrendously compromised by circumstances. So it's a difficult film to critique. Whenever you come to something like this, it's so bad that if you just rant about it for 2 hours, it's just the easiest target in the world. But it's difficult to critique because it's a bad film. You can't sit there and treat it like it's some serious, wonderful piece of work. It's terrible. The one plus of this film is it killed the franchise. Had it been a Batman Forever, we'd have got a Batman 5 in like 1999 or 2000, and it would have been
Batman Unlimited or whatever it would have been.
All right. It would have been like all of them.
It probably would have gone the way of like Star Trek, for example, and then kind of ended, maybe like we have done kind of early 2000 and then reboot again maybe 10 years later. But I think that, we kind of, it has to reach its die another day before we can get a Casino Royale.
You have to do something where... And the thing is, we have to remember, Die Another Day, unlike this, although it did okay, this film, it did less than twice its budget, which isn't good enough these days. But you look at Die Another Day, and it's by any measure of success, unadjusted and adjusted. It's the most successful Brosnan film, so you can't argue with it. But the producers looked at it and looked at the backlash and looked at the reviews and just said, this can't... Not only can this not endure, but there's nowhere we can go with this. Whereas this was forced upon them by the law of diminishing returns. It's like this is done over 100 million less than the film 2 years before. And it's got a toxic reputation. And, it took years, we'll talk about it next week, but it took years of them planning different ideas before they finally went, that's it, that's what we'll do. Very like Superman Returns, but with a better result than Superman Returns. I'm glad this was as bad as it was, in hindsight, because it created the conditions to give us a better Batman film. And possibly, I'm not saying Batman Begins is my favourite, but it is the most Batman film of this series that we're going to cover, and I'm very fond of it, so I'm pleased for that. So, yeah, I'm glad this film exists just to take the piss out of, and just because it led to the conditions that gave us Nolan. But there's no doubt it's one of the worst films we'll ever cover.
I agree. I mean, I remember there was like one of the questions, sort of like, what do you think is the most important superhero movie? And this one does spring to mind, and albeit it might be for the wrong reasons, but I think without this, you are absolutely right. You would not get probably the Batman Begins, but also is what else did that spark off? I mean, you got to think about the other films, other franchises that came off the back of this. I mean, this was kind of seen. It made money, but it was seen as a critical failure and almost
pretty anemic,
an embarrassment. So the reaction was kind of like, right, okay, well, let's not do this again. So from Batman and Robin, you start to get better like comic book films. You get Blade, you get Spider-Man, Hulk to a lesser extent. I know that doesn't have its fans, but at least it had its attention's in the right place.
A couple of versions of Hulk, don't we?
You are talking about the Ang Lee Hulk. And the very fact you hire Ang Lee, and
that was a major disappointment for me.
Well, I mean, it's not about how the film turned out. It's about the fact that ambitions have changed since you were giving it to Joel Schumacher and making these cartoons.
You can see what they were aiming for.
It will either if this had made $1 billion, which is exaggeration.
Can you imagine how shit comic book films would have been for at least 5 years?
If this made enough money, they'd have carried on. They want money first, but if they can't guarantee themselves money, let's at least try to get artistic credibility, and that's what the failure of this film led them to search for.
Yeah, it gone so far at the other end of the scale that, as I say, all credibility had kind of gone out the window, really.
Yeah, but I just think it was interesting. I think what was the next comic book film you came after it? I think it was Blade, which was like another.
Blade was the following year.
Yeah.
But if you think mainstream, because Blade is like an adult comic, isn't it? X-Men was 2000.
Oh yes, X-Men. Jesus Christ! But yeah, that was
that again had taken on a different tone. I kind of in air quotations, like darker sort of tone. Again, you know,
yeah, sorry, go on.
I would say just in terms of like sort of the costumes and obviously the casting, it was kind of I think that was a kind of a better blend of seriousness, but also retaining its comic roots, if that makes sense.
It does, but I think what I would say is that the Marvel Studios, is leading to these films not dating that way, only because we've had 10 years now, nearly, we're at 9 years since Iron Man, of these films embracing their comic bookness, but still managing to be relatively serious and fit in that sort of, you know, emotion and stakes and everything else. You look back on the X-Men now, and it looks almost embarrassed to be a comic book, as does the Nolan trilogy, if I'm honest. And I think that's now not in vogue. It's in vogue to accept that you're a comic book and embrace the aesthetic of that.
Be very meta.
But the very fact they went that way tells me that, like, it is a bit of a reaction to me, to the Batman and Robins of this world, to go, no, we are worth better than this.
Yeah, no one wants to be Batman and Robin. And to an extent, it's like the same argument said for Die Another Day. You know, without Die Another Day, wouldn't have got Casino Royale. You know, and it always beholds to that standard, like, we will not get another Die Another Day, because at least in not recent memory, I mean, maybe in like another 30 years where it kind of becomes a bit more distant, and maybe, you know, and the circumstances might have changed. But,
all lessons get forgotten eventually, yeah. But we're talking like within 5 years of the event in terms of this film. Yeah, they weren't going to repeat this anytime soon, were they?
No, definitely not. I mean, even in like the new ones, like, you know, like from Zack Snyder, which I know aren't well received. You know, they aren't gone this level. you know what I mean? There is an attempt for a more mature,
well, I think
darker.
Even the Zack Snyder films, for all their faults, and I've been recorded on podcasts talking about them, that they have at least demonstrated that you can pick up a comic book aesthetic, put these people in uniforms that look very much like drawn on the page with all the muscles and everything else, and still give them a very serious tone. And if not serious, you look at someone like Marvel, you can at least buy into the stakes. Whereas around the era of this, and right the way through like X-Men and stuff, it seemed to be you either went comic booky and therefore stupid, or you went like serious and you almost looked to deny you were a comic book in the first place. And I think comic books have matured, and you don't mature by going more sort of, you know, denim and real world. You mature by starting to almost like forget about the aesthetics of it and just tell us a story.
Yeah, I think it just changes the way filmmakers thought about making comic book films or about superheroes. It kind of, we don't need to do the campy stuff, or actually no, the campy stuff is pretty bad. No one really actually likes this.
I think it's not just the campy style. It's the idea that, like, if it looks a bit ridiculous to you, then play it for all it's worth in terms of jokes, whether they're funny or not. And we've seen from Marvel, and to a lesser degree DC, in that they are a bit more serious, full stop, that it's possible to put these people in very close to versions of their classic outfits, very primary colours, and still have stakes, and still have stories, and still have human drama. And this film didn't understand that at all. And I think Joe Schumacher didn't understand that. He thought, well, if it's a cartoon, it's throwaway and the stakes don't matter. And I do think it's a shame, because Joel Schumacher's a nice guy. From what I can tell, I mean, I've never met the man, and that's always the ultimate proof. But he seems decent, and he seems like he tried really hard. And I don't hate anyone for this. I don't even hate the studio. But they clearly made a massive mistake.
Well, you know, to be fair to Schumacher, I don't think even he... I think I've said it at the top of this podcast. I don't think even he had his heart in this. I don't think anyone had his heart in this. I mean, he was pretty much there, being the jobbing director, being told to do what the studios asked him to do, because in his heart of hearts he wanted to make Batman Year One.
He did say he didn't want to make one so quickly.
Yeah, he wants to make
a second one so fast.
Yeah, he wants to do a darker one. He wants to basically do Batman Year One. Funnily enough, he kind of wants to go that route. So it's again. So I think that tells in the film. It tells in performances. It tells in just in how and in everything really, how everyone was kind of just showing up to kind of do the job, and that's how you get how it is. I mean, it could be campy and cheesy and naff and all the rest of it, but had an element of fun, or it.
Oh, I agree.
Or of the campy jokes, we would have probably seen more of these. But maybe it's for the better that it was this bad, because.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to think if you're going to fuck it up, really fuck it up. I mean, if Die Another Day had been The World Is Not Enough or Tomorrow Never Dies standard, Pierce Brosnan would have got a fifth film.
Yeah, he wouldn't have had Casino Royale, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So, absolutely fine by me. Becca, what are your final thoughts on this? First time... No, it isn't first time. You saw it in cinemas, didn't you? But it's a long time ago.
I don't think I've seen it since.
It's a long time since you've seen this film.
Apart from now. It is the film that killed the Batman franchise.
But also made a better one rose from the ashes.
It did. It allowed the phoenix of the better Batman movies to rise from those sad ashes. I mean, it's. I do struggle a little bit. It's kind of. I did enjoy previous week's film, but I think this is pretty much more of the same, and it's too much really. Like you say, they had a really good cast. Basic people who are basically kind of like flavour of the month, who are then kind of hot right now. Obviously, apart from Arnie, he's perennial star, which is amazing. And people like Uma Thurman as well. And Alicia Silverstone, who's, if you are like, for a teenage, people are sort of my generation, obviously, sort of teenagers, is kind of very much a teen icon. Or people from my generation, certainly. But yeah, to think of all the cast and everyone involved in this film, and this is what they came up with, and I totally agree with you, Dave. This, to be fair, they did make out the film. They made the film they set out to make. But yeah, this is probably like the worst in the Batman franchise, certainly in this section of the franchise for me.
I mean, I don't know which one I'd rather watch over this or 66. Don't get me wrong, it's very simple for me. 66 is better.
I don't think you can compare the two.
Well, no, it's got its brain engaged, and it is a bit satirical and everything else. Having said that, as I think we established when we covered the 66 film, both me and Chris were saying that like it's a bit of a difficult watch in that something funny will happen, and you'll spend 2 or 3 minutes going, "This is hilarious," and then 10 minutes later you'll realise you've lost concentration entirely, and then something else will happen, and you go, "Oh, I don't know why I was struggling with this. It's quite funny." And it's all over the shop. 66 is a better film than this, which is its closest cousin.
That tells you a lot.
But it doesn't have the brains or heart of that film. And our heart is obvious, because you talk about this being product and everything. But brains too, because 66 is way smarter and more satirical than people give it credit for. Which one I'd rather watch, I don't know. But this is the worst Batman film we've seen so far.
Probably will remain that.
It's lacking
I
shot
haven't even seen a worse animated Batman film than this. I haven't, and I've seen quite a few.
I need to watch more animated films. I mean, I hear the Phantasm one's good.
Mask of the Phantasm is very good. It's a little bit overrated. When I say it's a little bit overrated, don't shoot me, listeners. It's purely that it's been so overpraised that when you watch it, you can't stop but be disappointed. Under the Red Hood's really good. That's worth seeing, and that's kind of an image and incarnation of Batman that I really want. Whereas I always thought the animated series was close but no cigar. I kind of didn't like it that much. Batman Year One I really like, both as a cartoon and a book. And I can remember.
I've not seen it just yet.
Batman Year One's worth watching. It's quite a good representation of the comic book, actually. In terms of just comic books, my favourite is The Long Halloween.
Okay.
That's worth a look. I'd love to see like a TV series of that, like a 10-part. Well, actually, it would be 12-part Netflix kind of thing. That's what I'd
Netflix,
love.
if you're listening.
They'll never put Batman on the small screen because it's a waste of a $1 billion making machine. But The Long Halloween is better suited to episodic, which will become clear if you ever read it. But Batman Year One...
You might want to develop it yourself, you never know, and then sell it to Netflix for millions.
Yeah, there's a lot of Batman Year One in next week's film, and we'll come to that. But yeah, I've never seen any worse Batman than this. And it's got nothing to do with bat nipples, even though I think that's a mistake. It isn't purely about aesthetics. It's purely about... There's something glorious. It's the same with Diana today. There's something glorious about so many smart people with good records unironically making such a
producing
folly.
a shit film.
You just go, well, that's amazing. Did this not occur to any of you? This is crap. I mean, at least with Superman, Superman 4, their budget was cut, and you had Christopher Reeve going, this isn't going to be very good. I don't know before they wrapped whether they realised how bad this was going to be.
I've got a fun fact pertaining to that.
Cool. Let's get to that then, because we've done our final thoughts. Becca, give us some facts about this movie.
Bat facts.
Theme tune.
With Becca Andrews.
Bat facts.
Bat fact number 1. This film ranked number 1 in Empire's 2010 list of 50 worst movies ever.
Well, that's no surprise, really, given him popular culture.
I know they recently did was it last year? They did 100 films best ever. I don't think this film featured on it at all.
It's not going to be the best ever, no.
No, I'm not sure if they've done a worst film since.
Can you imagine the uproar if this was like number 87?
See, I always draw the line. Whenever I say worst film, if I were to talk about this one, I would use words like mainstream and big budget or blockbuster or Hollywood or something, because there are worse films than this made every frigging week. There are films that don't even make sense. What there aren't are films that cost, 9-figure amounts, like $100 million plus, have Hollywood A-listers in it, have directed by people who've directed Oscar winners, not necessarily Oscar-winning films, but Oscar winners, in that Joel Schumacher did Falling Down with Michael Douglas, who won for, like, fucking Wall Street. So, there are very few films... of a film of this profile and budget released in the height of summer by a major studio, yes, it might be one of the very, very worst. But there are worse films released at least once a month.
I've heard today that apparently Woody Allen said to Joel Schumacher after he was saying like, I think I've made one of the worst film ever made, and he's like, no, that would have been an achievement. You've not even done that. So,
ouch.
No, I've seen worse films than this.
Yeah.
What I haven't seen is worse films with this ambition and money and everything else. Superman 4, for example, is way more incompetent, but it's had its budget slashed by over 50% right before you film it. It's made by a bunch of cheapskates. This is a Warner Brothers film. Warner Brothers is prestige. This is a Batman film. Only 3 episodes earlier, you had one of the biggest films of all time, and the previous one was a big hit. In George Clooney, you've got someone that Warner's were trying to position as the next Clint Eastwood. And I don't mean in style. I mean they were trying to fashion a deal on what they had with... that you do all your work for us, we'll make you a star, and you may even get to direct.
Yeah.
Very like they've got with Clint Eastwood. Chris O'Donnell was topping a lot of like teen lists, sexiest male and all that kind of thing. Alicia Silverstone was quite hot off Clueless. So on. You can go on all you like here. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Pretty much he was hot right now.
Well, Arnold Schwarzenegger is. I mean, if the world ended tomorrow, Arnold Schwarzenegger's in the top 10 biggest stars we've ever had.
Yeah.
Whether you think he's any good is irrelevant. He was massive, and everything he did was big news. And they've made this. So is it one of the worst films of all time? No, of fucking course it's not. But is it one of the worst big studio, big budget, big tentpole releases of all time? Yes, it very much is.
Probably one of the worst misfires or missteps.
Well, yeah, because no one expected this to be that bad till it came out.
Nobody expected the Spanish Inquisition.
What fact are we up to, Becca?
Fun fact number 2. This is the only Batman film so far in which the love interest doesn't find out that Bruce Wayne is secretly Batman.
Well, that's because they didn't do fucking anything with it. That's
No,
why.
exactly. That's because there wasn't really so much to do with the love interest, really, was
He was never there.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
This is the only film in this 4-film series, turning the page, in which none of the villains are killed by Batman
Rachel
or
finds
his allies.
out in the next series, and
Yeah, but
Talia al Ghul dude.
In this 4-film series, anyway.
No, but the point is, even in the next series, well, Miss Kitka knows. No, she doesn't actually. Sorry,
No.
but certainly in the next 3, Rachel finds out,
Yeah.
and his only other love interest, Talia al Ghul, knows.
And Catwoman.
Yeah.
So actually,
So certainly within like Batman.
yeah, they all.
Batman Returns,
Catwoman
you know.
finds out from Bane, so yeah, they all know.
Yeah. So it's just in this 4-film series that she is blissfully ignorant, only because we don't see enough of her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the only film so far.
She
in the
probably
series,
she probably did know. I mean, come on.
It was Al McPherson after all, you know. Yeah, so none of the villains are killed by Batman or his allies. They all end up in the clink.
For those listeners who are very young, sirens.
Yeah, because they're going to really know that. Is that a recommendation of you, Dave? To sort of...
It's a recommendation.
Oh, okay.
Carry on.
Anyway, and fun fact number 4: George Clooney has been known to refund people for this film by way of apology.
I actually seriously doubt that one. I think that's probably like what he probably did it once. He
I
probably did it
read an
once as a
interview
joke.
with him once, where he did actually mention
Well,
that.
I
he was
don't
like,
imagine. Well, he wouldn't seek people out, would he? Because this film made
Well, he wouldn't give you
$38 million.
sort of millions and millions.
So
but
if he
would,
bombed into everyone who ever seen it, he'd be bankrupted many times over.
he
But I
would,
do know that when
I have read
people
an interview where he has confirmed this fact. So
yeah, when people mention to him that they've seen it, and if they are in any way negative, he will offer them their money back.
yeah, he would say, "Oh, here's your £3, whatever it was back that you spent."
Yeah, but
Anyway,
like,
fun fact number 5.
does that include like the how much it was at the time or like inflation rate? What's the...
I imagine he would just hand him $10 and that'll be it.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. I mean, Chris, how far do you want to go with this? What was popcorn back then? How much did you pay for
It depends
parking?
whether or not you saw it.
Right, what would a
Cinema
babysitter
World
cost in
Odeon.
1997?
Well, yeah, it all goes up, you know. It depends.
I don't know actually. It's probably
Yeah, it's like 10 bucks that's all I got.
6 or 7 quid, I reckon.
Well,
I mean,
well,
no, you just
what about the date I took? I had to pay for, you know, that's all.
cost of the drinks, popcorn.
Did you get
food.
sex? Okay, well, I'll discount it by that amount because you probably enjoyed that. Oh,
Was
you
there
need a
3D
Viagra
movie at the
shit.
time? Did you have
That
to
cost
see it in
us a
3D?
subscription. Right, okay. What's the final fact, Becca?
The final fact is that obviously there is a Quentin Tarantino connection running through this film and indeed this podcast. George Clooney is in From Dusk Till Dawn, written by Tarantino, and obviously Uma Thurman is in Kill Bill, directed by QT himself, and we'll be getting to those movies later on in the series.
Well, not this series. We'll be getting to them in the...
Well, not the series, but
this
later
year.
on in the podcast as we run along.
It is a 2017 series. I doubt we'll finish it this year, but we will get to Tarantino this calendar year.
Cliffhanger.
Can't wait.
Is that our bat facts?
That's our 5 back facts.
Because I have another bat fact that I heard for the grapevine that originally the first choice for Mr. Freeze wasn't actually Arnie.
Oh.
It was Patrick Stewart.
Really?
There is the animated series is something that I've always thought is overrated, and it is something that you see. But I think some of that is the aesthetic you like. I've never liked the yellow ellipse, and I do like a bit of definition and body armor and stuff. But anyway, the animated series is the aesthetic that you get in Mask of the Phantasm, which was made just afterwards in 1993. But they did an
I've not seen
episode.
the Phantasm movies, I must.
It's
get the
on.
courage to watch
I was about to say it's on Netflix. I don't think it is. I think it's on Amazon Prime.
I
in this
don't have
country.
that, so I probably won't see it.
Okay, well, you can get a free month anyway. But yeah, I've seen it many times, and it's good. It's got a very good scene as well when Alfred sees Bruce in the Batman outfit for the first time, and the way he's animated is terrific as a response. But anyway, there is an episode in the first series, and I'm probably going to get this wrong because this is off the top of my head. I think it's the first series, and I think it's called Heart of Ice. and it gives you the Freeze backstory, but it's a thinner, obviously still bald, foreign kind of Mr. Freeze. I can't remember the accent, but I always imagine him kind of Austrian. Funny enough, given Arnie's Austrian, but it's meant to be smaller and colder and a bit more like eggheadish. But you will see it in that episode, which is also on Amazon Prime in this country. I heard about the whole Patrick Stewart thing. I don't care that it's Arnie, because frankly, if you put Patrick Stewart in this film, he might be a better actor, but I'm not convinced the film would be any better, would it?
Yeah, I think it would be less punny, I don't think. I think it would have been a different...
Yes, because you aim those things at Arnie. Oh, Arnie likes his puns, so chill. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it.
All right.
Nice to meet you. Is that what you're going to say?
I didn't say it.
I still see you.
I'm going to try and get away with this episode without saying it.
Let's try and break the ice. Did he even say that? You should have said that.
Let's
Probably.
kick some ice, he said.
Kick some ice.
Mm.
Like I said, break the ice at parties.
All right, folks, that's the end of Fun Facts. Social media.
Oh, you can find me at Cinedrops on Twitter. You can also find this podcast at my website at cinedrops.co.uk. Hopefully we'll be uploading more podcasts as well as this one, but yeah, you know me. I'm sure
At very least, there'll be a summer review in about 2 months.
Probably. I wonder who will be on that day. I do.
Starring a handsome young man.
And a handsome young man.
With a slight West Country accent. Yeah.
And a handsome young man with a northern
Oh, no,
accent.
it's all right. I mean, Chris, frankly, I don't give a shit if you do podcasts every week with other people. I'm not fucking jealous or anything. But the fact is, you keep talking about doing interviews with other people. The obvious one would be to do one with Becca, but there you go. We'll get to the summer. You won't have done one since March, and it'll be
better get on it somehow.
a review last week, so we'll do one.
But yeah, Becca will be on the podcast.
Becca will be on, and there will be a summer review because that's just what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can find me at the Pasty Kid 1976 on Twitter.
You can find us, dear people, at Expect Us to Talk. You can drop us an email, expectustotalk@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook via the usual means, and also on YouTube. Just type in "Do you expect us to talk" into the search box. You'll find us there. Also, don't forget to look out for us on iTunes. Just type in "Do you expect us to talk," and if you like what you're listening to, then leave us a glowing 5-star review. That helps us to rise up them charts and attract more listeners. And you can also find us on
we're quite
Stitcher.
lonely. If you really like what we're listening to, feel free to get in touch and offer sex.
Well, it's like what they're listening to, not what we're listening to. They might not like what we're listening to.
That's true. I haven't thought that through, have I?
But anyway, don't forget to leave us a glowing 5-star review, or even, 3-star review. We'll be happy with it.
Becca, don't say that.
But you can find us across all the social
They
media
normally
sites,
dock a point for me anyway.
apart from Pinterest and Instagram, where we're not on just yet.
Yeah, well, you'll find us on Grindr.
When you're on Grindr.
If we
Find
do
us on
bum,
Tinder
you'll be
at-
very
as long as you swipe the
satirical
right
and
way.
informative while we do it.
As well as dick and fart jokes.
Indeed. Although not fart jokes, because I wouldn't want to give you any ideas in that position.
Just a dick jokes then.
Yeah, just dick jokes.
Okay. I'm sure we can squeeze those in.
Oh, I think you'll be amazed what I can squeeze in.
I'm not sure I want to know.
We are done with the worst fucking era of Batman ever, and I think it's going to be really great next week, which means Becca.
Do you expect us to talk? We'll return with Batman Begins.